Good evening. Thank you for joining. It's been a second since I have done a live stream, so I appreciate you joining me for my debut. So a couple of things to know as we go through. If you have questions as they arise, go ahead and drop them in the comments. My goal is to try and keep this live stream right at about 20 or 25 minutes. If we have extra questions, I'm more than happy to answer them, but just make sure you drop them in the comments so that I can read them and respond as those questions arise to you. So today we're talking about creating DIY video in a way that does not look like it is DIY video. So I'm going to share a story with you. And there was a time, this wasn't all that long ago, that I saw an attorney, although I'm not picking on attorneys. This happens to the best of us, and I've seen it happen across industries. But this particular person was trying to shoot a LinkedIn video using their laptop webcam and their ceiling light, like above their head ceiling light. And I sort of flinched, actually, physically, because this person I know is incredibly smart. This person went to an Ivy League school. She has a fantastic reputation, but on camera, she looked like this was a hostage video shot in, an Applebee's back room somewhere. And nobody watched, nobody commented, nobody reached out. And again, it wasn't because that she's not smart, that she doesn't have a great reputation, that she doesn't know what she's doing. It was because her setup sabotaged her credibility and she came across as timid on camera. And the setup exacerbated that. So today I'm going to show you how to never let that happen to you. And you're going to look professional, you're going to look polished, and you're going to look all of those things with a gear setup list that is going to cost you maybe $300, right? Now, there's no blame on anybody if they don't know what they're doing. Most of the audience here is attorneys, and you're taught to think, you're taught to speak, you're taught to argue like an attorney. You're not taught, none of us are really, to produce content, except maybe somebody like me who came from the TV news world. So when it's time to show up on camera, the default is you open your laptop, you open up Zoom, maybe you turn on a light that's in your room up somewhere, you hit record, and maybe you pray a little bit. That default, though, is wrecking your credibility, right? It is repelling perhaps potential clients who would have hired you if they felt confident in you, right? Unfortunately, oftentimes the expectation is that, or the result of not looking confident on camera, same as public speaking, is that there's a loss of trust in your ability to perform at your job, right? It doesn't necessarily make sense, but if you look timid, if you look like you don't pay attention to detail, if you look like you're unaware that, we're getting a great shot up your nose, or you look like a disembodied head, there may be that feel that you're going to let other things slip through the cracks as well. So I won't belabor that point, but you can actually inspire trust. You can have presence. You can build authority with affordable tools, but it has to be intentional. It can't be something that you're doing by default. So I'm going to break it down for you. I've got a couple of resources that I'm going to be dropping the links to as well. So the first resource that I'm going to drop is a 10-minute setup for your gear. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to put that in the comments so that you are able to grab that. The 10-minute gear setup will tell you how to set up your studio in exactly what it says, 10 minutes or less. But you have to know where to put things and where to shoot yourself so that you can, in fact, set up appropriately. So the first thing that I want to talk about is your framing, and that is where you sit within the shot. meaning where are you positioned? Now, if you think about, and I don't know if you watch TV news, but if you think about how a television news anchor is framed in the set before, when the show first starts, oftentimes it's a close shot. And that's not happenstance. That's very intentional. And it's intentional because it allows the audience to, quote unquote, look into the anchor's eyes. It is a great way to establish rapport. So you should shoot yourself in a similar fashion. Now, if you're demonstrating something that requires you to be further away from the camera, let's say, I don't think we have any yoga instructors here today, but let's say you're a yoga instructor and you're showing a specific pose. You may need to pull away from the camera in order to show that. But generally speaking, you want to be framed kind of the way that I am now. So not a ton of headroom between the top of your head and the bottom of the screen, not a ton of space on either side, just enough that we can get some context for where you are seated. And if you're shooting a vertical video, meaning you're shooting up and down versus this way, which is what you're seeing me on tonight, then the proper format or ratio is very similar. It's just going to be that we're going to see a little more of your body and a little less on the sides. You want your camera to be right at eye level or slightly above, and you positioned in the center of the screen. Having your camera at eye level or above means that it's a little bit easier to make eye contact with the camera, which is one of the things a lot of people struggle with when they're on their laptops. And it also helps create a more flattering shot. So much as you may know, if you open your phone up and it's below your face like this, it's not a flattering shot. Whereas if it's slightly above eye level, it's a more flattering shot. So that's why I suggest your camera be at eye level or slightly above. I hope all of that makes sense. And remember, if you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments. All right, I'm going to now drop a gear guide in the comments as well. And I'm going to go into gear and background. Now, the reason that I'm combining the two, let me go ahead and drop that comment. The reason that I am combining the two is because the way you set up your gear and the gear you have can also amplify your background. So generally speaking, let me separate this a little bit. Let me talk about the background for a second. Generally speaking, you don't want to be up against a wall. You want to have a little bit of depth behind you. I have behind me right now probably about 12 to 15 or so feet. You don't need that much room, but back to a wall generally will look like a hostage video in the back room of an Applebee's. Now, if you don't have a lot of room in your office and you're looking for a way to give yourself a little bit of depth, one of the ways that you can do that is to actually position yourself so that your back is in the corner of the room and the camera is shooting back towards the corner. That will give you a little bit of visual interest and a little bit of depth behind you, even if you are in a small space. I would also generally never suggest shooting in front of a white wall or shooting in front of something that is distracting. So what I suggest is go ahead and take a screenshot of wherever it is that you're setting up and run it by a couple of eyes who haven't seen you in that position before. And then they can look at your background and see if there's anything that's distracting, because for you, you're used to your background. You're used to what's in your office. It's sort of like white noise. You don't notice it anymore. But when you look through a fresh pair of eyes, you might pick up on things that are distracting or not appropriate in your background. All right, I dropped the gear guide in the chat in the comments. The next thing that I want to talk about is lighting. So lighting is the most important thing that you're going to buy. You want I don't like to use a ring light. I like to use something called a softbox light, which is a slightly bigger, softer light. It's a little more diffuse. You'll see one on the gear guide. I position that light in front of me and slightly above eye level. Now, if you have a great window that gets direct light, you could certainly shoot in front of that as well. I am sitting in front of a window right now, but I also have my softbox on and I have two tube lights. Tube lights are lights that go on the side. They are just what they sound like. They are lights that are in the shape of a tube, so they don't take up a lot of space on your desk. I put them at a 45-degree angle on either side and I tilt them down slightly. The reason I tilt them down is because they're not shooting directly at me, which means I don't get the glasses glare. So if you have glasses, you'll definitely want to angle your lights down. So I use 3 lights. Again, one in front of me and 2 on either side at a 45-degree angle and tilted down slightly. I have them all as well, slightly above eye level. Right. The reason, and you can use a ring light. In fact, you'll see a ring light on the gear guide, but I suggest using a softbox because if you're in front of your camera for a long period of time, the ring light is pretty harsh. It can tire your eyes out. Then you're bloodshot and glassy, and that's not a good look. All right. The next thing is the camera. And I suggest using your smartphone. You don't shoot on Zoom, don't shoot on your laptop, use your smartphone, whether it's an Android or an iPhone. I happen to have both. I like the video on my Android a little bit better. That just happens to be my personal preference, but you don't need anything more than this piece of gear. That's all you need to shoot video that is broadcast quality. Now, you have 4K on your phone. What will make it look like it's not broadcast quality is the way that you're framed and the lighting that you have, and maybe the audio. That'll make it sound not broadcast quality. We'll get into mics in just a second. But if you have a phone made in the last, let's say, 3 years, you don't need any other gear. The thing that's going to make that look broadcast quality is your lighting, your positioning or framing within the lens. And then what will make it sound broadcast quality is having a broadcast quality mic as well. Now, in terms of mics, I like to use, there's 2 mics that I like to use. One is this Hollyland mic. It's super easy to use. It is a little magnet that clips onto your shirt. Don't hold it. Clip it onto your shirt. And then it has a little receiver that you can plug into either your iPhone or your smartphone. It has both C and whatever the other one is. B, I don't know. And that's it. That's all you have to do to set it up. It's not perfect sound, but it is sound that is definitely good enough to use for social media. I'm not using it now because I will repurpose this live stream into a podcast and I want to have better quality sound. So I'm using a different mic, but for short clips on social media, this is perfect. The other thing that you can also use is a Rode Lavalier Go. Now, this one I still need to update on my gear guide, but it's Rode, R-O-D-E, Lavalier Go. And that microphone is also a clip-on, but it's wired. So it will have a wire that will attach to your phone. The quality of that mic is also very, very good. It's a little less expensive, but what you have to deal with that you don't have to deal with the Hollyland is that you have a wire. So if you do have a wire, don't run it down the outside of your shirt, run it up underneath your shirt, and then clip it to your lapel or your collar. Does all of that make sense? I hope that it does. The next thing that you need is Okay, hopefully you can hear me now. My mic was muted. Sorry about that. The next thing that you want to use is a tripod. I use this one because I set it up on my desk. It's small, it's at the perfect height, and I can easily carry it with me if I need to. Now, this is not the tripod that I have on the gear guide. Oh, Vincent, I see you. The gear guide is, it is the first link in the comments. And if you can't catch it, I will post the live link after this live shot is, or live stream is over. I know my audio did cut out. I'm back now. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. I just got a notice that suddenly my mic was muted. So I hope you didn't miss too much of that. Jamal, yeah, great tips. Use softbox, 2 tube lights, and the same wireless mic. Exactly what I recommended. So yeah, I'm glad. It sounds like you have your gear in your studio set up. Vincent, if you can't find that gear guide, just shoot me a little comment or send me a DM and I'll make sure that you have it. But it should be the second comment in the thread here, the gear guide. All right, so tripod. I use this tripod. You can use a tripod with a ring light on it as well, as long as it holds your phone. You just want to have something where you have a steady shot, right? You don't want to be shooting. You can do a walk and talk video every now and then on LinkedIn. That's perfectly fine. You can even use a gimbal, but now we're getting a little bit complicated and you don't need to get all complicated. You just need a steady shot. And the way that you get that steady shot is to put your phone on a tripod. Super easy to do, just like that. Set it up and you talk into the camera. I always suggest using actually this camera, the one that's on the back versus the one that's on the front, for a couple of reasons. Number one, this camera is a better quality camera, so you will see less distortion in your facial features. These front-facing cameras are getting better, but they're still, this is the OG. This camera is the one that they advertise. The other benefit of shooting into the back of your phone is that you're not distracted by your face. It's really easy to get sucked into looking at your face on the screen because we're all judging ourselves. So if you just remove that temptation and shoot on the back of your phone, you will find it to be a little bit easier to do both of those things. Now, where it gets a little bit tricky with using the back of your phone is if you are also using a teleprompter. Now, sometimes I will use a teleprompter if I have, like, I'm not using one right now, I'm just speaking off the cuff. But if I have a tight video that I'm looking to create for LinkedIn and I want to include a story or there's a specific number of tips and I want to make sure that I stay on track, I will use a teleprompter. And it doesn't mean necessarily that the entire script is written out. Sometimes it is, if there's certain statistics that I want to include and I want to make sure that I don't forget them. But sometimes it's also bullet points or an outline that's scrolling past the camera as I'm reading. If you are interested in using a teleprompter, there's one that I suggest. It's called Big View, BIGVU. You'll see a link to that on the gear guide. They have a free version. They have a paid version. There's a lot of other bells and whistles. You can add captions. You can do a little bit of editing, but where it really shines is as a teleprompter. It will track your voice, or you can set a manual scroll speed. The words run right next to the camera on your phone, and it makes it really easy to get through what you need to get through without having to do a lot of retakes or a lot of edits until you get comfortable on camera and you can just wing it. The one place that gets a little bit tricky, again, is if you want to use this backside of your camera, because the teleprompter is scrolling right here. So if you want to use the backside of your camera, what I suggest is a rear camera mirror. And you will see that on the gear guide as well. It's a little clip-on camera is basically what it is, that will mirror what's going here to here. And so you can shoot here and also still read the teleprompter. It's a little bit laggy. Excuse me, it's not perfect. It is a little bit laggy, but that is absolutely a great workaround if you want to practice using your teleprompter as well. All right. I want to talk a little bit about systems because buying the gear is easy. Setting it up is easy, something you're able to do in an hour or so, and then you know exactly where your gear needs to be and what you need to look like. But using that gear consistently is often where people, lawyers and more, find that they hit the wall. So here's how to make your setup as frictionless as possible. Keep everything as much as you can set up. Like my softbox is always there. My tube lights are always there. I know exactly, because I've marked it on my desk, where I put my tripod. I know exactly how long I need to telescope my tripod because I have it marked. And that way I can just pull it out. I can set it down on the spot. I can open it up and I can plug my phone in. So you're keeping your studio not set up necessarily, except for your lights maybe, but you have your placeholders there. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Then you want to have a designated spot for your tripod. So something, you know, close by where you're not digging through a bunch of gear and trying to find it. A lot of times setting the gear up, if you're doing it completely each and every time, gets a little bit tiresome. Use a very simple shooting checklist, you know, framing, mic check, script if you're going to use it. You know, you've got your lights there. I think I said that already. Right, just a checklist that you can go through and make sure that you have everything set up. And then finally, batch record. So I suggest recording 2 to 3 videos at the same time and record them every other week. Once you get really good at recording your video, the process of recording will be very quick. So right now it might take you an hour to shoot one video. But I have a client that I'm working with right now who used to shoot a video an hour and now is able to knock out 5 videos in that space. Don't aim for 5, aim for 2 to 3 every other week and block off about 2 hours for it until you get comfortable. Right now, I can take a video from bare bones. I can set up my studio. I can write my entire script. I can plug it into my phone. I can record the video. I can edit it, run it through captions, and get it posted all in about 12 minutes, barring any technical difficulties or some laggy stuff on the caption program that I use, which is Submagic, by the way. And you'll see that on the gear guide as well. So the process, once you know it, and once you're good on camera, is actually very smooth. It's one of the things I most enjoy about my week. I set aside Mondays and Fridays for content creation and quite enjoy that time. All right. So here's what happens when you use this particular setup, right? You probably get more referrals because your peers and your potential clients, your referral partners, your peers, understand what you do and they're able to watch your videos. You show up confidently on camera. You've got great energy that attracts high value clients. Your videos stop looking like witness prep and start looking like leadership. It's not Hollywood by a long shot, but it is clarity, it is authority, and it is repeatable. So if you want the checklist, you should see both of them in the comments. I'm going to drop a few more resources there. Yes, absolutely, Jamal. Batch recording is huge. It's hugely helpful. I have a webinar that I'm hosting coming up on July 9th. It is a free webinar. It is at 12 noon Eastern, but I'm going to put the link and we'll talk about this in a little more depth. We'll also talk about speaking on camera, a framework for creating video. It's called the Video Authority Blueprint webinar. And I put the link to that in the comments. And I will also put a link, although you can find this in my featured page or featured section as well. I will put a link to scheduling a Video Authority Blueprint call with me so that we can walk through whatever your challenges are as they relate to video and how I might be able to help you. With that said, I've gone a little bit over. I ended up going 26 minutes instead of the 20 that I was aiming for. Do we have any questions? Is there anything that you were curious about that I have either not addressed or you have not asked? If you have those, go ahead and put them in the comments. Matthew, is there a reason I do captions in a separate program from BigView? You can absolutely do captions in BigView. I just personally happen to like the captions in Submagic a little bit better. There's a font in there that I'm particularly fond of. And I like that. I like the headlines, the title page, if you will, that they generate for me as well. But that's really the only reason that I use it. You can absolutely cut down on your workflow by using BigView to put your captions in. Or if you use another editing software, for example, like CapCut, they'll put captions in for you as well. Oh, Gary, you missed it. Well, it'll be up on LinkedIn, so it'll function just as a post on my profile. So if you're interested in watching, you can absolutely do that. And then if you have any questions after, I'll be monitoring the comments. So feel free to ask a question in the comments. Hey, Jeff, all good. I'm glad to see you here. It's good to see all of you. Okay. Are you sharing a recording? Gary, what I'll be doing is if you go to my LinkedIn profile after this is over, you will see this live stream populate just the way that you would a post, and you'll be able to watch it that way. What camera are you shooting this on? Any tips on editing apps and Riverside apps? So I'm actually shooting this on my webcam. I have a MacBook Pro. It's actually kind of old at this point. There's a couple of other cameras that you can use. I have a Logitech as well. I don't love it, although it is reasonably priced and it does 4K video. I also have a Sony A6400. But because I'm doing this live stream on my computer, that's why I'm not using my phone. So the image that you're looking at is not as pristine as the image would be on my phone. Tips on editing apps. I do a lot of editing actually right in the editing on my phone. So I will cut off the beginning where you see sort of the lag before I start talking, and I will cut off the end where I'm going to hit stop on the recording. So I'll trim that in my phone, and then I will upload it onto my computer because I just happen to like doing things on my computer more than I like doing things on my phone. CapCut is a great editing platform. They have a free version. They have a pro version. I have the pro. There's a few more features there. There is auto cut, which means it'll automatically take out pauses for you. It'll automatically filter out ums and ahs. They also have a great interface that you can use if you download the CapCut app on your computer. There's a little more functionality on your computer than there is on your phone. It's a fantastic editing app. Riverside, I do use Riverside for, podcast recordings. I have an account. I don't use it that much, again, except if I'm recording a podcast, because I like the audio on Riverside better than I like it on Zoom. Zoom's audio is compressed because they're trying to save bandwidth, whereas Riverside or even StreamYard has better audio quality. Jeffrey, is there much difference between BigView on the computer versus mobile? If you're talking about the way that the teleprompter, I mean, yes, it's different. I like to write my script on my computer, and then it automatically uploads into the app on my phone, and then I record on my phone. In terms of the actual words scrolling, do they make a difference? or are they different on the two? They are a little bit different. I've tried recording big view on my computer, and I don't, not because it's not super easy to do, but just because I don't like using my webcam. But if you have big view on your phone, go to bigview.tv on your computer, check it out. Again, it's very, very easy to use. I just don't like using it on my computer because I don't like shooting social media video on my webcam. Functionality in a post. I'm not exactly, are you talking about big view? Using big view to create a post, Jeff? Post-production. Oh, using big view to like edit. I'm sorry that I'm being dense right now. I'm making sure that I understand what you're asking. I'm going to assume that you mean editing in big view, and I actually don't edit in big view. I find it easier to edit in CapCut. Got it. Okay, perfect. Yeah. I don't edit in big view. It's not an editing platform. It is, its core functionality is as a teleprompter. So you can't do as much in big view as you can do in CapCut. I very rarely do a lot of edits. The reason being is that I do my videos in one take, meaning that there's not a lot of pauses in between. And that the reason I do them in one take, I use a teleprompter to help me shoot that way. And also because it cuts down on my editing time on the back end. That said, if you are going to shoot in chunks, or you are looking for something that will automatically remove ums and ahs, and that will automatically remove pauses as you look down and figure out what it is that you want to say, CapCut is the way to go. I hope that was helpful. If you need any clarification, don't hesitate to ask. Any other questions? Looks like maybe no. So my goal is to do a live stream a week. I used to do a live stream every single week. I got out of the habit. I'm a pro, not at editing. I'm definitely not a pro at editing. Oh, you mean it being able to not say ums or ahs? Yeah, listen, if you are, there's a process of editing. Sorry, I'm going to get my notebook here so I can sort of demonstrate. It's a process of editing that consists of a series of jump cuts. And a jump cut would be if you see somebody looks like they're recording a sentence, and then there's a little beep, like just a little blip, if you will, and then they're back again and they're shooting another couple of sentences, and then there's another little blip and they're shooting, additional. The way that they do that is they look at their script, they memorize a sentence or two, they look up to the camera, they deliver the sentence, they take a pause, they look down at their notes, usually they memorize another sentence or two, they come back to the camera and they deliver them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And those little blips, if you will, are where the pauses were edited out. So if you're going to shoot a video like that, I would recommend editing it in CapCut because they make it very, very easy to do. In fact, what I should do probably for one of these sessions is to walk through editing on CapCut, at least some very basics. I'll share my screen and then walk you through exactly how to make those basic edits on your videos. Hopefully that would be helpful. And if you have, other ideas for live streams, things that you would find helpful or useful, or things that you have questions about, I would love a DM. I have a bunch of ideas already, but if there's anything that would be particularly helpful, I'd love to know, because it helps me figure out what lands and it helps me create live streams that are helpful to the audience as well. So shoot me a DM. Like I said, I'm going to be trying to do these. This was on a Wednesday because my My daughter's graduation from 8th grade is tomorrow. Generally, these are going to be, though, on Thursdays at 7 or 7:05, like this one was. I won't be able to do it next week, but I'll pick back up weekly after that. So yes, CapCut lesson, Vincent, you got it. I will absolutely do that. I might not be able to do it for the next one since I've already sent out the email about what I'll be covering on the next live stream, but I'll try and do it for the one after that. Share my screen and make sure that you understand or have a basic understanding of how to use CapCut. Any other questions? It's so funny because on my screen, it shows 0 viewers. And I was worried that nobody was here. I was really felt like I was talking to myself for quite a while. I'm so glad to see all the comments. I'm glad that people are here. I'm hopeful that you found this helpful. And I'm excited to keep doing these once a week. I love live. I think it goes back to my TV days of doing live TV for hours and hours and hours every single day. But I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit nervous about doing this one because I haven't done it in so long. Anyway, thank you for being an amazing audience. Again, feel free if you're watching this on replay to drop questions in the comments. I will get a notification and I'm more than happy to answer it. If you have something that you want to ask, but you don't want it for the world to see, feel free to DM me as well. You're very welcome, Jeffrey and Vincent. Thank you for being here. Jamal, Gary, Matthew, I appreciate all of you spending a little bit of your Wednesday evening with me. With that said, I will sign off and hope that you have a wonderful evening, and I will see you on LinkedIn tomorrow. Take care.